New York Times, U.S. conducts retaliatory strikes in Iraq and Syria against Iranian proxies. What does it say here? The U.S. on Friday carried out a series of military strikes against Iran-backed militants in 6 sites. New York Times says 6 sites were attacked. Says half a dozen sites in Iraq and Syria were hit by U.S. I'm just posting this.
All right, here we go. Here we go. Let me get back on.
So the New York Times is reporting that the U.S. carried out a series of military strikes against Iran-backed militants in half a dozen sites.
All right, get it on the air. Breaking news, breaking news. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Breaking News. It looks like U.S. airstrikes have started over Iraq and Syria, but not Iran. Fortunately, we have a knucklehead. Let's go, Brandon. Joe Biden doesn't want to talk Iran, take on Iran because Joe Biden is afraid of Iran. So we're doing it with the prick shots. This is Fox News confirming that there were airstrikes, but as far as that information is concerning, it looks like it's Tomahawk cruise missiles, might be some F-18 Hornets, might be F-35s. And guys, thank you for coming in tonight, this afternoon. I had a discussion with a friend of mine that took me to pay my groceries. I won't tell his name, but he works for the government when it comes to F-35. He didn't need maintenance. He has a team that goes out there and fix them. So basically, he might be on call this weekend. So we had a good discussion about that. Sorry about that. So it is 1:01 in the morning in Iraq. And like I said last night, if this is the confirmed, United States like to attack at night, darkness. So basically, my suggestion it might be, the butterflies are in the house. Good afternoon, my brother. Yes, yes, yes. Today is the day. Fox News has confirmed that airstrikes have begun in Iraq and Syria, not Iran. Unfortunately, we have a knucklehead in chief. Let's go, Brandon. So a lot of things to talk about real quickly before I put the other guy back on. Well, let's go, Brandon. Joe Biden met in Dover, Delaware. It was pre-tape. It wasn't live because, the major news network don't want to catch him making a mistake. So it wasn't live. It was pre-tape for meeting the conference of the 3 brave Americans. It was him, his old lady, and the defense secretary was there. I think out of the hospital. He looks way too weak to be a defense secretary. But it wasn't live. It was free tape. So it looks like it has begun. This with a handpricks. Nothing's going to happen. We're going to find out how long it's going to be. Let me go back to the guy. Agenda free. He's pretty good with the stuff. Let's see what he has to say. Once again, it is 103. There we go.
Defense official adds. That is the Washington Post saying at least 8 locations attacked. New York Times says half a dozen locations struck. Thanks, by the way, to Stephen Reed, Uncle Toot, for your support. Also, Janet Burnett, thank you. Corwin, 719 Frequency, Johnny Hash, Abdul Karim Saleh, Joe, Kerry Poteet, and Leslie Lamana, thank you for your support. And also, real quick, thanks so much to James Carlberg for your support. Thanks, James. We are bringing you live coverage here of the strikes, retaliatory strikes on Iraq and Syria, retaliating to, hold on, B-1 bombers involved in the strike per DOD official. Lara Seligman, who is with Politico, has a new comment from a DOD official, B-1 bombers involved in the strike. I'm going to change reports because we have so many reports now. I am confident in just saying,
All right.
that. Give me one moment here.
While he's doing that, he's taking some information. Difference between a B-1 bomber and a B-2 bomber. B-1 bomber was made in the 70s and 80s. It is not a stealth bomber. It was a bomber that was supposed to replace a B-52 bomber. This bomber, he's saying B-1 bomber, is supersonic. It's Mr. Badass. Sorry about that, but yes. Made in the 80s, so they're using a latest B-1 bomber. It's like 40 years old. I remember when they first put out the B-1 bomber, 1980, I think it's 81 with Reagan. Unfortunately, we had a Democrat Carter. He canceled the program. Reagan said, not today. So we'll see if he's still looking. But yeah, that is the breaking news. B-1 bombers are apparently going out of England, and B-2 bombers are basically stationed in St. Louis, Missouri, Air Force Base. So we go back and see what he has to say. This is good. It's going to be good. Okay. So he's still checking. We'll go ahead. Yeah. Bud Files, thank you for coming in. Kuznuts, thank you for coming in. Guys, don't forget to hit Nightbot. Hit that link.
Update the title.
Okay, hold on.
Okay.
Here we go.
Thanks for your patience, guys.
Here we go. I think he's ready. Well, while he's doing that, check out.
Okay.
Come on, man.
Let's get you the latest
here we go.
updates here. So B-1 bombers involved in the strike. CENTCOM statement, breaking news. Breaking news. CENTCOM statement, breaking news. Breaking news.
All right,
here's the statement from CENTCOM. At 4 p.m. Eastern Time, February 2nd, U.S. Central Command forces conducted airstrikes in Iraq and Syria against Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps Force, Quds Force, and affiliated militia groups.
Ooh.
U.S. military forces struck more than 85 targets
Ooh.
with numerous aircraft, to include long-range bombers flown from the United States.
Mm-hmm.
The airstrikes employed more than 125 precision munitions. The facilities that were struck included command and control operations, centers, intelligence centers, rockets and missiles, and unmanned air vehicle storages and logistics and munitions supply chain facilities of militia groups and their IRGC sponsors who facilitated attacks against U.S. and coalition forces. Wow, there you go. Big statement from CENTCOM.
All right, let me go ahead and break it down. Give me a second. I'm going to pause him for just a second. I'm going to pause him for just a second. And once again, this is breaking news. CENTCOM is the military areas for the Middle East. I think their bases are in Kuwait and Saudi Arabia and Saudi. This is breaking news for CENTCOM. This is the military outpost in the Middle East saying breaking news that bombers leaving from the United States hit targets in Iranian natural Iranian special forces. So it might be, yeah, it might be Iran. Yeah. So basically, what is going on is it takes at least 15 to 16 hours to get a bomber force from the United States into the Middle East. So that's a nonstop flight. More likely, it is B-1 bombers. Might be B-2. I know the B-2 Bottom Squadron is in St. Louis, Missouri. B-1 bombers could be anywhere in the United States. That's some breaking news. Wow. We're going to go back to him for just a second. I just want to let you know it's going to be a long night. And I forgot to get my drinking. So we might have to deal with Kool-Aid. Cruz Nuts in the house. Yes, Cruz Nuts. How you doing, bro? Yes, I will be home tomorrow. I'll be home tomorrow. My phone will be right next to me tomorrow morning. So what we discuss is a go. So I'll be here. I might have to order some drinkies. Okay, when we go back to him, it is now 1:11:45 in the morning in Iran, Syria. Okay, we'll go back to him. He got better news. Go ahead and find Sky Network. I'll go ahead and do that first. Hopefully we can get some pictures.
Again, it seemed from the...
All right.
The IRGC.
Come on.
I mean, unless there's people places, but people might have cleared out of all these areas. So yeah. There might have been people hit. But it doesn't specifically say that they were like targeting the forces. Two True says sounds like a facility strike.
Okay. All right, let me go ahead and while he's doing that.
Okay.
There we go.
Guys, this is from the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, which is they're a UK-based group that reports on stuff going on in Syria. They claim 10 members of Iranian militias killed and injured under airstrikes in Deir ez-Zor, Syria. Now, I don't know if these were this part of the strikes carried out by the U.S. 6 members of Iranian militias, at least 3 of which are non-Syrian members, were killed and 4 others were injured under anonymous airstrikes in Syria. Moreover, anonymous warplanes targeted. This looks like maybe the U.S. strikes.
All right.
The warplanes carried out 4 rounds of airstrikes on positions of Iranian militias in Deir ez-Zor, 3 of which took place in Al-Mayadeen and 1 in Al-Bokamal, while the scout and surveillance planes are still flying over the region. So again, this is from this. It's a well-respected group that reports on Syria. They're saying that 10 people, 10 members of Iranian militias were killed and injured in some strikes in Syria. And they also say that scout and surveillance planes are still flying over the region. By the way, I'm assuming you can't see any of these like fighter aircraft or scout aircraft on flight radar. I'll do a quick check here, but I'm going to assume that we're not going to be seeing
22
these U.S.
free service
aircraft, the sensitive ones, on flight radar.
All right, let's see here. We'll go back over here.
Here's Syria right here. There's no aircraft on flight radar 24. That's not one. That's just a civilian craft.
Okay.
So you're not really seeing
it. It looks like about 11 to 12 units now. Okay, cool.
I mean, there's some aircraft over Iraq, but I'll keep an eye out. But again, I'm also looking at what the most tracked is, and none of the most tracked. It's not like a lot of people are tracking anything over there. No.
It's 1 o'clock in the morning. Okay, so let me go ahead and do this. Wait for him.
Anyways, if I hear,
I know I'm also with the center of the military aircraft. So they're using KC-135s. Those are the refueling tankers aircraft in the Middle East. They're probably at over the Mediterranean, and they refueled all our fighters, all our bombers, especially the B-1 bomber. They flew that from the United States. They need to refuel at least twice from leaving from the United States and go to the Middle East. They need to refuel twice. So it's like a mid-air refueling. Obviously, if they say the B-1 bomber is not real secret stuff, the B-2 is the stealth bomber. I know for a fact the squadron of B-2s are in St. Louis, Missouri, so they got to do that flight. That's like a 16 or 17. That's why it probably took a while. It takes at least 16 or 17 hours to fly all the way out there. From the Middle East. Yes. Let me see here. We got we're going to try Sky News. See, we got people in Europe. Let me go ahead and do this. Let's see.
Joe Biden. He's got to do lots of different things at the same time. He wants to deter the Iranians. He wants to degrade the abilities of these militias here in Iraq to strike at U.S. bases and installations. And they've been doing that since the middle of October. By our calculations, over 170 strikes at U.S. targets since the middle of October. So it didn't just start at Tower.
Okay, now this guy from Sky News, he's in that head. He said the United States has struck 170 times. No, it was the terrorists that struck our interests 170 times. See, sometimes British, they're not as intelligent. Great Britain. But this guy neighborhood, let me see here. We'll go ahead and do this.
He has to balance these interests really carefully. It's a very difficult job. With every strike, with every target, he is sending a message. But what he clearly doesn't want, we assume, is to go to war with Iran. He doesn't.
Okay, yeah. So you know why he doesn't want to go to Iran? Because Iran use our money to put in terrorist organization of Iran. We gave them all the money. We gave them the sanctions back. They got the money. Y'all knew about the trade-off, $6 billion for 6 hostages. So
over days, and possibly over days or weeks. Faytux News says official military statements usually mean the attacks have ended. However, this situation is special, so I don't know if CENTCOM's statement means the strikes have ended. Well, again, I don't know if they've ended for now, but John Kirby explicitly said in a White House press briefing a day or two ago, explicitly said the first thing you see won't be the last. And that's also something, I forget the exact wording, but the defense secretary said something like that yesterday. So there's going to be more strikes.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be more strikes because that's just, we have had that telegraphed by the U.S. government for the last several days. Jojo thinks the president will address the country maybe this evening. I haven't heard that he will. I don't know, but I haven't heard that. So let's just look at this again. CENTCOM statement, U.S. Central Command, at 4 p.m., that's 50 minutes ago, Eastern Time, U.S. Central Command forces conducted airstrikes in Iraq and Syria against Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, Quds Force, and affiliated militia groups. U.S. military forces struck more than 85 targets with numerous aircraft to include long-range bombers flown from the United States. The airstrikes employed more than 125 precision munitions. The facilities that were struck included command and control operation centers, intelligence centers, rockets and missiles, and unmanned aerial vehicle storages. They've actually corrected a couple typos in this. And logistics and munition supply chain facilities of militia groups and their IRGC sponsors who facilitated attacks against U.S. and coalition forces. So if they updated their post, did they edited it? Do I have to repost it again? Let's see. No, it's there. So will that be it for like a day or what? This is an unconfirmed report here. I'm not sure about this video. Stephen Nabil, who is a Middle Eastern analyst, he says that U.S. airstrike targeted a house used as a munitions and rocket storage by the militias in Al-Qaim, Iraq. I don't know if this is legit video, but I don't know if that report is true. Let's see. I got to open up some other things here. Let me open up a couple things here.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to check some Arabic language media too.
Okay, while he's doing that, we're going to go back and tell you what the top story is.
Okay, so supposedly, this is from Omar Habib, who I follow for Iraq stuff. This is supposedly from Al-Qaim, Iraq. He says the situation in the city of Al-Qaim, it's difficult for people in the wake of American bombing of weapons stores, as the video from the city shows. Unconfirmed video from Iraq here.
Okay.
Is that really from tonight? From Iraq?
We don't
I
know.
don't know. I just don't know.
Yeah. I wouldn't pay much attention to that. Okay, let's see what this guy is saying. Trying to get
tempered against that need to provide a measured response, because absolutely you don't want to make a bad situation worse.
No.
So I think that it'll be.
All right. So basically, what's going on? What's going on? Biden administration. Yes. Okay. No, we got Kamala. She's doing something live. Let's see what Kamala is talking about. at a campaign event. This is what she has to say. But she is an idiot. You know, we all know what Kamala. We all know what Kamala Harris, how she got her job as vice president. Yeah, we all know about that. Let's see here. Oh, born in South Carolina. Joe Biden is not in South Carolina. Y'all know. Kamala is trying to get the knucklehead Democrat committee. Let's see here. Let's see what this idiot has to say real quick. We're gonna peep in here.
And he overturned Roe v. Wade. Proud that he took the freedom of choice from millions of American women. For years, the former president has stoked the fires of hate and bigotry and racism and xenophobia for his own power and political gain.
All right, this woman is a idiot. I just had to say this. We're doing airstrikes right now against terrorist organizations. She's not even talking about that. She's talking about racism. She's talking about sexism. Y'all know about what I think about Planned Parenthood. Who the founder of Planned Parenthood is. Yes, I'm gonna go off tonight. Planned Parenthood. The person that make how you call it, the creator of Planned Parenthood is a on the form the KKK too, the Democrat Party. Now this idiot right here, Kamala Harris has no biological children. I wonder why. Oh yeah, she believes in killing babies. Okay.
And it is on us then to recognize the profound threat he poses to our democracy and to our freedoms. And let us recognize there are extremists across our country who have been inspired.
Okay, I can listen to which. Yes, I'm behaving myself. I cannot listen to this woman. Why should I listen to a woman? She has no biological children. Why? Why should I? That's another story for a different day. Don't have time for that. Well, she's in South Carolina, but she's an idiot. She is a. Yeah, I know. Okay, breaking news. CBS News. All right. Dr. Phil. All right. Dun, dun, dun. All right, go ahead. Okay. All right, we'll go back. We're gonna go back to free agenda. Kamala, woman's sick. We know how she got that job as Attorney General in California. All right, let's go back to. All right, let's see here.
This video again. I can't confirm it. This is FJ, who I follow. It's the same video I showed you from Telegram. Supposedly, it's from Al Qaim, Iraq. So FJ thinks what's going on here is you're seeing secondary explosions of projectiles and munitions following U.S. airstrikes on an IRGC-linked warehouse. Maybe that is what it is. I don't know. I'll play you this again.
Taking it with you wherever you go.
Okay, let's see here. All right, so I'm still waiting for
Oh,
him.
and then here's another video posted by Here's one that Aurora Intel found. Reportedly, the targeting of the Al-Sika neighborhood in Al-Qaim, Iraq.
يا ستار يمكن صواريخ مشاكل والله لا يقعد علينا والله جاي تطاير يا ستار الله يستر الله يستر الله يستر بردا وسلاما ان شاء الله.
Okay, this is we'll go ahead and
So you're seeing some of these videos that are going around. What is this?
Oh, right.
I'm seeing some quotes attributed to officials, but I'm not sure if they're legit. So I'm going to check on those as well. Hang on here. Give me a moment. Oh, is this Syrian television? Hey guys, I found a link to a story by Syrian television. Syria TV, which is a TV station about Syria, but it's in Istanbul, Turkey.
Mm.
Let me show you what they're reporting for whatever it's worth. Syria TV is a pro-opposition Syrian television network. That is from Wikipedia. So Syria TV has this. They say at least 6 Iranian militia members were killed and others were injured in an airstrike launched by American warplanes on the eastern countryside of Deir ez-Zor in Syria. Pro-Iranian pages announced that 3 people had been killed as an initial result of an American bombing that targeted Iranian militia sites, blah, 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 before announcing the number had risen to 6 dead. I can't confirm this.
Mm-hmm.
So we're hearing some unconfirmed reports of casualties after these strikes. Al Jazeera is reporting a source in the Islamic resistance in Iraq, which is the umbrella group of militias supported by Iran, that the U.S. said the Islamic resistance in Iraq is responsible for the drone strike on the U.S. outpost Sunday. Basically, the U.S. called out the Islamic resistance of Iraq militia. It's a group of militia groups, basically. So Al Jazeera says a source in the Islamic resistance in Iraq told Al Jazeera that there were 6 American strikes inside Iraq and included a weapons depot. A source from Islamic resistance in Iraq also told Al Jazeera the bombing targeted sites from which missiles and I don't know if it's drones, resistance marches were launched against American bases.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to get you the latest updates here. I'm checking a bunch of different sources. We'll show you some more videos. Give me a shout on X at Lookner. In case you missed it, U.S. retaliatory strikes have begun in Iraq and Syria, retaliating for the drone strike on Sunday, which killed 3 U.S. Americans, 3 American soldiers in Jordan, and that the U.S. says was carried out by Iran-backed militant groups. Or militants.
You mean terrorists? You're not going to hear anything from Joe Biden. Let's go, Brandon. Let's see here. We got Kamala Harris who's doing it. Now let's see.
Oh, I have an update here from Jeff Selden.
Okay.
Okay, U.S. official tells VOA News the slew of strikes in Iraq and Syria were aimed at causing a major disruption in logistics for Iran's IRGC forces and its militia groups. Iran has forces in Iraq and Syria, and it supports militia groups there. The targets are critical to their supply chain, per the official, adding the strikes were not for personnel purposes. See, when I read you the CENTCOM statement, I said it sounded like these strikes were not targeting personnel. Well, that's what a U.S. official tells VOA News' Jeff Selden. The strikes were not for personnel purposes, so leaving room to escalate, I would assume. U.S. assessment on strikes ongoing, but official says they were deliberate and intentional. We hit what we intended to hit. Targets hit in the newest wave of U.S. strikes versus Iran-backed groups in Iraq, Syria, were chosen with care to minimize the risk of civilian casualties, per U.S. official. Initial early assessments not showing any civilian casualties so far.
Okay, I'll go ahead and do this. Let me go ahead and do this. He's doing
And in
something.
case you missed it, let me just read you the CENTCOM statement again.
All right.
CENTCOM. At 4 p.m. Eastern Time, U.S. Central Command Forces conducted airstrikes in Iraq and Syria against Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC Quds Force, and affiliated militia groups. U.S. military forces struck more than 85 targets with numerous aircraft, to include long-range bombers flown from the United States. The airstrikes employed more than 125 precision munitions. The facilities that were struck included command and control operations centers, intelligence centers, rockets and missiles, and unmanned aerial vehicle storages, and logistics and munition supply chain facilities of militia groups and their IRGC sponsors, who facilitated attacks against U.S. and coalition forces.
All right. So basically, all right. Oh, we're kind of like that. See, they always go on commercial when I switch. So let me get you up to date on what's going on. Since I have knowledge of what military, how they work. Basically, United States forces like to start first at night, early in the morning, when it's the darkest. They get strike at night. Doesn't mean if it's cloudy or rainy, they get the strike at night. Basically, usually it's a combination of B-1 bombers, where they're made in 1980s and refit and all that stuff. B-1 bomber was designed back in the 80s to carry nuclear weapons. Now they are just the main bomber force, other than the B-52. B-1 bombers and supersonic aircraft carries a lot more munitions than the B-52. B-1 bomber will carry cruise missiles, guided missiles, guided bombs, and dumb bombs. Basically, and yes, the B-1 bomber is designed to go supersonic speeds. It's way faster than B-52. They like to go low on that one, and they're going to little prick targets. That's what I call it. Prick targets. Mm-hmm. Yes, prick targets like that. And a lot of people say, "Why are you talking about cruising?" This is prime time. This is breaking news. Don't forget, guys, hit that like button. Yes, we have the weather girl in the house. Sherry, how you doing? I am just chilling out, watching the breaking. Yes, I do breaking news. I do breaking news. Um, so yes, this is the breaking news. A lot of people are not going to talk about what they're going to talk about. Oh, stupid phone call. It's a robot. Anyways, yes, the breaking news is U.S. forces have struck the terrorist cells in the Middle East after Saturday's attack that killed 3 American Patriots soldiers for the U.S. Army. They came back from Dover Air Force Base to be buried at Arlington Cemetery, I think. Yeah, heroes, their patriots, and stuff like that. United States forces that struck over an hour ago. Different targets. Well, they've been doing that for the past couple of weeks. So, my personal opinion, they should have done that. They should have done that on Sunday instead of waiting for 6 days before they do that. My knowledge in the military is pretty cool. They use a combination of B-1 bombers. Most definitely use the stealth bomber, B-2 stealth bombers. One of the squadrons are based in St. Louis, Missouri. So they got a mid-air refueling. They use KC-135 tankers for that. And they fly at night. And yeah. It is like 115, 120 in the Middle East. And we're going to get back. We're going to get back to the a guy that I like, Agenda Free. He's getting more information. I think he is. He has a lot of good connections. Now, this is, let's see here. Our response begins again is considered as place with our convenience. I said that before. 6 days. Took them 6 days. Now, all right. Now they're doing other stuff. See, I go ahead and go back to the guy. I'm trying to find some live coverage from BBC. Okay, breaking it too. All right, he did something. I'll find out what's going on. Uh-oh. Okay. Let's see here. All right, here we go. Is that you gonna say?
New video, and I can't verify this. Global Military Info posted this one and said, looks like a rocket storage facility was hit in Iraq by the U.S.
هذا بالجوال. قولوا.
So what Global Military Info is saying is when you see those things fly up, it's not like anti-aircraft fire. It's what FJ said as well. The idea would be is like some weapon storage facility was hit and maybe there's like rockets in it. And so as the facility burns, you get this ammunition like rockets that catches on fire and flies off. That's the idea. Gezo says it's missiles cooking off. It might be the same video or a different one. I couldn't tell if that was a different angle. We've seen a couple videos that are like that. I think we saw another one from farther away. Again, I can't confirm it. It seems like that's coming from, that might be a legit video from Iraq.
Mm-hmm. All right, let me go ahead and do this real quickly. Let me go ahead and pause him for just a second while he's trying to get more information.
And then Intel Crab, yeah, see, this is a different one, but it might be the same.
All right, now what we're going to do with this is, it is breaking news. That's why I have it on all three channels. The Z Show, the Z Show Cruise Fun, and the Z's Gaming Home Theater. I like doing breaking news. Yes, it's prime time. I do breaking news. A lot of people say, Z, you're the man when it comes to breaking news. But yes, U.S. strikes. Now, here's what I want y'all guys to do. For me, you don't have to put on your TVs. If you're watching this on your phone, you can put it like, if you're doing something else, just put the volume up to 1 and just get into watch hours. I'm still waiting for some. Come on. Oh, they're in a commercial break. So, yeah. I'm still waiting for that. Thank you guys for coming in. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Go ahead and check out the Weather Girl. I'm doing that. So, yes, I'm putting this on. I need to check to see what's going on. Still a commercial break. All right. All right, these. Okay. Oh, hold on. Mm-hmm. All right, let's see here. Again. Uh-oh. Let's see here. All right, here we go. We got Fox News Channel. Okay, here we go. Here we go. This is we'll check it on a 5 Fox News Channel. These guys. We're gonna see. Go ahead and
have consequences for actions not in the United States. They, like you said, if you harm Americans, there will be payback. Well, there are Americans being harmed in the United States every damn day. We don't do shit about the border. We don't do anything about crime. When will we send a message to the illegal immigrants or the fentanyl suppliers or the smash and grabbers? Or hell, why not send a message to the people who assault cops? I'm not saying bombing. I'm saying actually creating disincentives, actually punishing people who deserve punishment in the United States and protecting millions of Americans here. I don't want our troops getting bombed over there. I prefer that they be home here. So you put the sitting ducks out there, then we got to go send some virtue signaling message to show that we're doing something and that we know is not doing anything. And then we got to sit here and act like armchair experts talking about this crap for 17 minutes. I'm sick of it.
All right, I'm not sure where to go with that.
Richard.
All right. No, there's actually something you said, Greg, that I actually agree with. That, and I think if you study the history of how we got here, and the idea that decades ago, a group of folks sat in a room and took Crayola and drew lines throughout the.
Okay, let me back up. I want to hear what he has to say. Okay, I'm gonna play this, and I like this. All right, here we go.
Or would have left. You know, I won't speculate on any of that. I would just tell you that you know, we will have a multi-tiered response.
Okay.
So, Will, I think it would be safe to assume that given the time of day when they struck after midnight local time and the telegraphing that had taken place, we had seen reports that Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps commanders had been called back to Iran. I would be very surprised if any of them had been at these bases.
Mm-hmm.
There may have been a few people left behind, but not the senior commanders. And I think perhaps that was by design. Again, you've heard the Pentagon and others say that they're not seeking a war with Iran. That's why U.S. officials are ruling out any strikes inside Iran at this time. But again, this is the first salvo. They're hoping that Tehran gets the message without this having to escalate.
Great, Judge Pirro.
Jennifer, I understand that the United States is saying they're not seeking a war, but at the same time, there are those who believe that if you just hit the proxies in Syria and Iraq, that it's not going to matter to Iran.
Yeah.
And that when Iran can separate itself from the proxies, saying, they go rogue, when the truth is the Iran Revolutionary Guard Corps both trains them and pays them,
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of disingenuous. And then what is the point of our hitting the proxies?
Yeah.
Well, it's a very good question. And certainly this shell game that Iran has been playing in the Middle East by arming and supporting and training these proxies, whether it's in Lebanon with Hezbollah, whether it's these various groups in Syria and Iraq, whether it's the Houthis in Yemen, whether it's Hamas in the Gaza Strip, there is a common thread here, and it is Iran, and it is Tehran. And the U.S. has not figured out a way to put enough pressure on Iran to make it painful enough for them to stop supporting these groups. And in fact, there are some who believe, and this is why it's a very delicate balancing act for the White House National Security Team, as well as the Pentagon, is how not to get baited into a war with Iran, because some believe that's what Iran wants, that they wanted Israel to find itself in a war with Hamas and for the U.S. to stumble into a larger conflict. And so that's what people are trying to avoid. But they also believe that by striking 85 targets, as well as a days-long, if not weeks-long campaign, that they can ratchet up the pressure on Iran. They're going to lose a lot of valuable property that their proxies have been using to torment and taunt U.S. bases for the last 3 months. The question one should ask is, what took so long? Of course, it's tragic that 3 Americans were killed, but the U.S. troops sitting in Iraq and Syria have been sitting ducks for months now.
Indeed. Jennifer Griffin, thank you so much. We want to get to Mike Tobin. He's in Israel and Tel Aviv. He's got the latest with reaction there, as I'm sure that they are on heightened alert as well.
Okay, let me go ahead and fast forward this.
We're always on heightened alert at this stage, Dick. And what I can really confirm for you right now are just some of the locations. We have a source inside of Iraq who says indeed there have been
facilities in Iraq and Syria that the IRGC, that's the Iran Revolutionary Guard Corps, and affiliated militia used to attack U.S. forces. He goes on to say that our response began today and it will continue at a time and place of our choosing. That's a line that the White House and the administration have been using now for some time. He also says the U.S. does not seek conflict in the Middle East or anywhere else in the world, but let all those who might seek to do us harm know this: if you harm an American, we will respond. The president, as he mentioned, attended that dignified transfer earlier today. He's back home at his home in Delaware.
No,
where we weren't expecting to hear much more from him today until he released this statement. There has been plenty of criticism of the White House and the time that it has taken in this response.
several days since the.
All right, let me pause this for just a second. I'm gonna pause this. So, just wrapping this up. We started military airstrikes against Iran, sponsors of terror. Iran, we all know, is the number one state sponsor of terror. This is a response to attack that killed 3 of our bravest soldiers. But these guys have been doing it for 3 months. 3 months. There are a lot of soldiers got injured, brain trauma, 3 months. And then Saturday night, Sunday morning, these 3 free, brave Americans lost their lives. Sunday. So 6 days. So, and then we say, hey, we're not going to attack Iran. So that's a signal. That is a signal, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of people going to say, oh, what are you talking about, Z? Okay, you're not going to attack the number one state sponsor of terror, which is Iran. You're not going to attack the country that made the drone to kill our people. And you say we're not going to attack Iran. That means the terrorist organizations, all the head guys are going to go to Iran to be safe. You don't tell your enemy what you're going to do or what you're not going to do. Now, I think Greg is going to talk about that. We'll go ahead. I just want to make sure what you guys know what's going on. This is a Democratic organization. The Democrats are running the military, not the military. It's politicians. Always have, always will be.
That it should have been a robust response and one that should have happened shortly thereafter that attack.
Mm-hmm.
Senator Lindsey Graham had said earlier today, before the details of this strike came out, that the lapse of time has lessened the impact of deterrence, and by not hitting oil infrastructure in Iran or Revolutionary Guard personnel, you will have failed to make the point. Iran is one of those subjects, one of the many subjects that Republicans and the White House have been at odds over since the beginning of the administration. The White House has tried to get the U.S. back into the Iran nuclear deal. Those attempts have failed. There was the prisoner swap, and you remember the $6 billion that the administration was going to unfreeze for Iranian assets. The U.S. said that fell apart, especially after the Hamas attack on Israel and Iran's support for Hamas. So this continues to be a point of friction. We'll get more updates from Capitol Hill as the details come out.
Quick question from me and then the judge and Will. I just have, has the White House called a lid for the day?
The White House called the lid a couple of hours ago, which is why this statement was a surprise. The lid, of course, meaning you're not going to hear from the president today. And then, of course, we did. And so as this continues, we may expect to hear more from administration officials and from the White House.
All right, Judge Janine.
You know, it's very interesting to hear the administration say, quote, if you harm an American, we will respond. It appears that they harmed over 100 Americans before the United States responded. And the United States is making it clear that it doesn't want a broader war. I mean, the Republicans obviously don't agree with the stance of this administration. I mean, does anyone think this is really going to change things based upon this kind of tepid response?
Yeah, you know, Judge, you look at the nearly 170 attacks on U.S. positions in Iraq and in Syria and now in Jordan since the middle of October. And there has been plenty of criticism about the several attacks that the U.S. has had on positions in Iraq and Syria since those attacks began, and sort of the timeline that it took just for those retaliatory responses. And now what's ostensibly the largest response that we've had to date. The administration has justified its responses in saying that it's trying to maintain deterrence by trying to ensure that this doesn't spread wider, a conflict doesn't spread wider in the Middle East, because you've got Israel fighting Hamas in Gaza, you've got Israel and Hezbollah on the Lebanon border going back and forth, you've got the Houthis in Yemen attacking shipping in the Gulf of Aden and in the Red Sea, and now you've got all of these attacks on American positions on the Middle East. But the Republicans have argued, and those like Senator Lindsey Graham have argued, that unless you have something that is really robust and shows that you mean business, you're not showing that. In fact, you're only inviting more of these attacks.
Tim's in at the White House, thank you. And if they pop the lid again, let us know.
Let you know.
Okay. Take it around the table here, Judge.
You know, what's interesting about all of this is that the United States, is in my last question to Rich, is the United States is not going to respond. It's not by going into Tehran, okay? When Donald Trump was president, he took out Soleimani, who was the head of the Revolutionary Guard Corps. Now, if the United States made a decision to go after that island, wherever that island is, where they have that oil supply, then we would hurt Iran economically and hurt, consequently, all of the proxies. The problem is if we did that, then the price of oil would go up in a presidential year. So, you know, the administration, again, is in this schizophrenic, like, we're going to let Iran sell oil in the open market. We're going to let them eat the billions of dollars that they got from our hostage exchange. But we're going to warn them not to touch Americans. But only after they touch 100 and then kill 3 will we respond. It's a schizophrenic. It's not clear what we're willing to do.
There's a huge amount of if they've already done 85 strikes, 85 targets, that's a huge amount of capacity that Iranian-backed proxies have in order to attack our troops who are there. So, if there's several more days of this, then that's a lot of capability that we've allowed them to build up.
I would make 2 points, and I would be curious, actually, Greg, at your response to this, but one on the micro and one on the macro. On the micro, I don't see that much has actually happened. In terms of some strikes, yes, that has occurred. What has it done to deter Iran? If they have a heads-up warning to pull their people out, then I don't know that anything message has been sent that would deter them in the future. But the macro is, and forgive the not-so-subtle plug, but I had Senator Rand Paul on my digital show this week, the Will Kane Show, and he said this. He said, when it comes to the Houthis, strike them and strike them hard. They're messing with international shipping lanes. When it comes to this story, what we're looking at right now, why do we have guys scattered across Syria? Why do we have guys scattered across Iraq? Why are we leaving ourselves vulnerable to the potential for an attack to Iran?
No, I agree. I mean, I think the phrase was used, sitting ducks. Why are the ducks there, right? I think we've learned a lot in the last couple of years that we shouldn't be there. I mean, look, this would be the first time in my life that I agree with Joy Reid. Not another effing war, right? I'm warred out. We had Ukraine, it's 2 years, Gaza, Iran. You know, one day they're good guys, the next day they're bad guys, then they're good guys again, and then we're not sure, and then we talk. You know, a wise man once said, and I wish I remembered his name, it's big if we make it big. And that's what we do. We take things and we make it big. And why is it that we only have consequences for actions not in the United States? Like you said, if you harm Americans, there will be payback. Well, there are Americans being harmed in the United States every damn day. We don't do shit about the border. We don't do anything about crime. When will we send a message to the illegal immigrants or the fentanyl suppliers or the smash and grabbers? Or hell, why not send a message to the people who assault cops? I'm not saying bombing. I'm saying actually creating distance. Sentence, actually punishing people who deserve punishment in the United States and protecting millions of Americans here. I don't want our troops getting bombed over there. I prefer that they be home here. So you put the sitting ducks out there, then we got to go send some virtue signaling message to show that we're doing something and that we know is not doing anything. And then we got to sit here and act like armchair experts talking about this crap for 17 minutes. I'm sick of it.
All right, I'm not sure where to go with that.
All right. No, there's actually something you said, Greg, that I actually agree with. And I think if you study the history of how we got here and the idea that decades ago, a group of folks sat in a room and took Crayola and drew lines throughout the Middle East. And then, to your point, one day they were our friends, the next day they were our enemies. The weapons that we sold them when they were our friends, they used them to kill us when they were our enemies. And now we're here. And I think that's what's the sad part here. I think the one thing that I would add to this conversation when it comes to some of the news of the day, which we haven't heard much about, is that today the Justice Department did announce that the United States government has seized 500,000 barrels of Iranian oil that was internationally sanctioned, that was being illegally trafficked to sellers in China, Russia, and Syria. So just adding that
Finally.
Yeah,
I'm just adding that because I think that news is important given the fact that we're having this conversation around Iranian containment.
But the question is, what impact does that have on Iran? Just like we won't hit Iran, we won't hit that island where the oil is, we won't hit any infrastructure in Iran. But the thing that I want an answer to is that drone that went into Jordan that killed 3 of our servicemen and injured over 40. They couldn't track it. I want to know if it was an American drone from Afghanistan. Is that the reason that our system defenses didn't recognize that drone that came in and killed 3 and injured at least 40?
But the other thing is that happened this week is that the Biden administration, it was late last week, decided to answer to the TikTok crowd and McKibben and cancel liquefied natural gas exports to Russia, to Europe. So where do you think they're going to get it next? I mean, they have to heat their homes.
Right.
So we're basically bombing them at the time that we're also cutting off their nose to spite our face and our allies. So there's a lot to make sense of. We're going to keep going with this because we have retired Army Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg. He's also a Fox News contributor. He can give us his thoughts and tell us where we are right or wrong. But mostly, I'm sure we're right, as you'll say.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm not going to go where Greg was at, though. Look, here's one of the things that the reason why you want to. We've been dodging a bullet for the last 90 days. They finally get home with the deaths of 3 great Americans, and that can continue in the future. This thing is not stopping, not at all. And I would like to know what is the end state of this contingency plan that the United States has established with all this bombing. I don't know where they're going to. They need to tell us.
Well, they called the lid, so I don't think we're going to get that tonight. Thank you, General Kellogg. Let's bring in former CIA station chief Dan Hoffman. He's also a Fox News contributor. And I'm curious what you think about that leak from last night that came out from...
All right. Yeah, let me go ahead and do this real quick. Got to say hello to people. Hey, Bama Noah, how you doing, bro? Well, yes, this is breaking news. Well, 6 days. 6 days since men and women had died of the terrorist attack. Joe Biden doing that handshakes, not attacking Iran, attacking Syria and Iraq terrorists. Now, I got this. Pause for a second. Yes, so it happened a couple hours ago. That's why I'm on now. All 3 channels. This is breaking news. This is what I like to do. So we'll go ahead and play this. Give me a second. All right, here we go.
A war.
You know, Judge, you and both the General Kellogg.
Back up.
I don't want to have a war any more than anyone.
All right. All right, Judge. I'll listen to the 5 real quickly. I got it. All right, here we go.
Doesn't make any sense.
You know, I refer to it, Dana, as a schizophrenic approach, but I mean, that's a benign way to describe it.
Mm-hmm.
It really is an approach that is political, so you're able to say to the Americans, I'm doing this, or I'm supporting Israel, or we're attacking them, or, you know, we hit them 65 times or 85, whatever the number was, but at the same time saying to Iran, look, we're going to let you have that $10 billion waiver and the $6 billion for the hostages, and we're going to let you sell oil on the international market. And that's what's so frustrating to me. I don't want to have a war any more than anyone else. But I think Greg is right. We've got Americans all over the place, all over in Iraq and Syria, and I understand. But, you know, we need to keep an eye on Al-Qaeda and everybody else. But when Donald Trump was president, and I don't want to make this political, but you had a leader who said, the Iran Revolutionary Guard Corps, I'm going to kill their leader, Soleimani, took him out. That was it. And then Joe Biden, he leaves Afghanistan. How many billions of dollars worth of armaments are in the Middle East? And I believe they're using them against us now. So the administration is not stupid. There is some other agenda going on where it's not just, we have to do this, but we got to let China do this. We got to let Iran do that. And we don't want to fight them. And we got to give them warning. And we want them to know we don't want to have a war. Hey, you kill an American, you should have a war.
You know, Judge, you and both the General Kellogg brought up the instance of Donald Trump making a threat to the Taliban and then striking Soleimani and that backing off of power. What I would offer up is this. Donald Trump is an exception to the rule. Donald Trump is one of the reasons he was so hated by both the machine that exists within Washington, D.C. that is now gearing up for yet another war. Whether it was left or right, Republican or Democrat, there was enmity towards Donald Trump. And I think it's in part because it stood in the way of moments like this when you need some sobriety to say, if I'm connecting the dots correctly, we have presence scattered around this area for counterterrorism. Those targets then get hit. Then we now too, I'm just listening to the conversation throughout this first 35 minutes, Greg, then we have to go hit the people that hit us. And we live under this delusion that's just going to stop them. One big stop, and then they're not going to. Of course, that's set against the backdrop of about 50 years of talk of regime change in Iran. And we have a great history of regime change. That's worked out really well in Afghanistan. Of course, now we're regime changing in Afghanistan, and it feeds instability and chaos across the greater Middle East, everywhere we go in to set stability. And before you know it, we've seeded the ground for more terrorism that comes back and hits us, which undercuts the original purpose of putting troops in place in the Middle East in the first place as counterterrorism. I just think we might need some sobriety before we fire up the war machine on this cycle that seems to always end up in American death.
And why? Why was it that there was so much going on with Al-Qaeda and all the beheadings and the bombings? And then in 6 weeks, you get rid of the caliphate when Trump came in. He gave the generals full authority, go in there and get rid of it. He got rid of them.
To Will's point, and I think you're speaking to something that's absolutely right, because I think you have to rewind the tape before you get to Donald Trump, right? Because you're absolutely right. When we talk about when you talk about the caliphate, when you talk about Al-Qaeda, when you talk about Afghanistan, when you talk about the death of our troops, and you talk about how our troops died, and I think that's the hardest part about it, is they died with weapons that we stole to the people to begin with in the 80s. And then
sitting in the desert.
Okay, no, let me go ahead and just say this. I like this talk about what's going on, the airstrikes and everything like that. And the judge, I love the judge. I love Greg. But the judge said it when Donald Trump was president, and these knuckleheads were acting like fools, attacking our soldiers. Donald Trump said, and I'm quoting him, if one American gets hurt because of your stupidity, I would turn your country into glass. He actually said that. So one knucklehead attacks one of our soldiers, and Donald Trump says, okay. He took out one of the key members of Iranian government. Took him out. Know where he was. Tell the generals, you have our permission to beat the living crap out of him and just kill him. Now, when Let's Go Brandon comes into office, we had Iran down to its knees. We had them. And then you're telling me that more black people voted for Joe Biden, and you let that knucklehead come into office. You know what he did? He took away all the stuff that Donald Trump did and said, hey, we're not going to do that anymore. My son is going to go to the Middle East. My son's going to go to China and make some money for my family. That's what he said. That's what we're doing with all this right now. Now, if Trump was in office, I'll say this. If Donald Trump was in office, none of this crap would be happening because people in the Middle East, the Iranians, the terrorists, the Russians, the Chinese, the North Koreans was afraid of Donald Trump. Because Donald Trump did not take crap from anybody. Now we're dealing with this. This is not good. These attacks are not as big as I wish they were. And like I always say, You don't tell your enemy what you're going to do when it comes to war. We are at war. Iran is with a war with us. Iran's key logo is death to Israel, death to the Jewish state, and death to America. They say that. The government does say that, but we say, oh, we're not at war. It don't hurt us. If you attack our people, we're going to go to the UN. I'm tired. We need to take out Iran, period. We don't have to put our boots to the ground. We got Tomahawk cruise missiles that can hit Iran. We have the greatest Navy in the world, the greatest Air Force in the world. We can make Iran look like glass. So I want you to know all about that. We're going to keep this going.
But I mean, let's go back to the 1980s when we were literally selling weapons to many of these places that used those weapons to then kill American troops. In the history of this region, and this is not the only region where this is the case. Anytime America goes into places and says, we're going to build a democracy here, right? Or we're going to make this place better, and we're going to sell weapons in this place and give them a chance, what ends up happening is Americans end up dying as a result. It might not happen in that decade. It might happen 2 or 3 decades later, but it's the weapons that we sold them the decade before.
Hey, we did a great job with regime change in Ukraine. That worked out really well. I'm sorry. I'm sitting at home watching the 5 right now, and I'm just going like, don't lecture me on deterrence. We don't have any deterrence anywhere, especially in the United States. We have no idea what an incentive or a disincentive is. Obviously, I've become very cynical about this. I mean, I spoke out about Ukraine. The first week it started, it's called a Putin puppet. And now we're 2 years into it. We've got, 70,000, 80,000 Ukrainian dead. And that all could have been prevented. But, we had to have a war, Anyway, I'm no expert on this, but I know if I were sitting at home right now, I feel like all of this information and all of this speculation, you heard it before, you're going to hear it again. We're just filling a bucket.
All right, well, let's bring in special report anchor Brett Baer to help us fill the bucket. Brett, you've been watching this. You know the region well and the issues well, and catch us up on what you think tonight.
Well, a couple of things. One is the White House put out a statement saying that the president making the statement that this afternoon he, at his direction, issued this order for U.S. forces in response at the time and place of his choosing. Kept on saying that. The White House said it, the Defense Secretary said it, the State Department said it. Today was the time and the place. The place, Syria and Iraq, and these Iran proxy groups on the ground, some 85 targets, 125 precision munitions. Interestingly, it happened just moments after the transfer of the American bodies, the 3 soldiers who were killed in that base in Jordan by drones that were funded by the Iranians. Whenever anybody takes this, we can't prove that these proxy groups are tied directly to Iran. You talk to experts in the intel world, it's direct. There are hundreds of millions of dollars that are going to these proxy groups. They don't fire a BB gun without getting the blessing, essentially, of Iran. Interestingly, in the White House statement and the CENTCOM statement, it says and mentions the IRGC, the Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, as being part of this, saying that those were part of the targets. And it goes on to say, the United States does not seek conflict in the Middle East or anywhere else in the world, but let all those who might seek to do us harm know this: if you harm an American, we will respond. Well, already there has been a response from some Republican lawmakers who are very critical of how long this has taken. Mike McCall, the chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, saying almost a week after today's strikes, it's long overdue following the delay that allowed our enemies to prepare. So there will be criticism about how long it takes, but to Greg's point, it is a deterrence when the U.S. military is fully engaged. When you fly B-1 bombers from the U.S., the Middle East pays attention. And whether it's right or wrong in response to an American soldier being dead, this is a big response. We don't have all the targets yet, and we'll see more as the hours progress.
Brett, you interviewed the Prime Minister of Qatar earlier this week. what would he be thinking about this tonight? Do they welcome it?
Well, I asked him specifically if and when the U.S. responds to this attack in Jordan, the killing of 3 American soldiers, what will Qatar say? Well, how will the response?
Okay, we'll go ahead and fast forward
About
this.
deterrence, and yet, what is a larger risk for Americans? Something over there, or something to the south at our border?
Exactly.
We have absolutely no deterrence there, and I think are we talking about punishment, or are we talking about deterrence? Are they the same thing? Because what you try to do is you try to put somebody in a deeper hole than they were if they hadn't done something, correct? That's what Soleimani was.
Right.
So that put Iran in a deeper hole than they were before. But the thing with strikes, or the idea of these calculated deterrents, is that they're just back where they started. We're just putting them back where they started. It's like a kid who keeps doing skateboarding tricks, falls down, gets back up, keeps doing it until he gets it right.
Yeah.
We never actually get them down so they're below where they started. So that's why it's frustrating, when we talk about this stuff. And meanwhile, we do nothing for the immediate challenges and threats at our border.
Totally agree with
All right.
that about the border. Let me just say one thing.
Brett, we'll thank you, and we'll let you go. And Brett, you have an answer? Sorry.
No.
We have
I was
Joey
just going to
Jones
say.
getting up ready.
Yeah, I was just going to say, listen, what isn't deterrence is saying repeatedly, don't.
Right.
That didn't work.
Yeah.
I'm going to see you at 6 o'clock. I got a lot to do.
Okay. Thanks, Brett. And Joey Jones is on the phone with us. Hi, Joey.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Let's get your take. We'll give you the floor.
Yeah, listen, if this were about deterrence, it would have happened a couple of months ago. At least 160 some odd strikes against the United States ago. This is about pacifying Americans who are literally sitting here going, really? We're going to let someone hit us 200 times and kill 3 of us now, and injure dozens of us, and we're just going to say that you don't? That's our best policy here. I hate to believe that presidential politics has.
Okay, so basically, they're talking about that. Let's go ahead and go back. I want to go to this guy. It is now 20 in Iran. We put him on and see what he.
Quds Force has been targeted previously. I mean, Bloomberg's saying it's a serious escalation. I don't know that that's true.
Yeah.
Remember, I read you this. Let's go back here. I'm going to show you a couple things here. First of all, Jason Brodsky, who's an expert on the Middle East, says the U.S. targeted Iranian IRGC forces in October 2023 airstrikes. Those were likely Quds Force as well. And Nafisa Khanavard from BBC said this is not the first time the U.S. has targeted IRGC Quds Force locations in Syria and Iraq. They have done it before, like when the U.S. jets targeted ammunition depots belonging to IRGC back in 2022. I don't know how escalatory this really is. I'm not hearing that from other analysts. Jason Brodsky, who I follow for Iran stuff, also posted this from Kasari Arabi, who is director of Iranian IRGC research at United Against Nuclear Iran. He is also a resident scholar at the Middle East Institute. Mm-hmm. He thinks U.S. strikes against Iran positions in Iraq and Syria at present appear more symbolic than practically meaningful. Biden gave the IRGC advance notice and enough time to withdraw its commanders and clear out facilities. Tonight.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to get the Cruise channel a break. So I'm going to put this on. I'm going to take that out. The Z show will continue. I'm going to have live reports. I want to eat something, so I'm going to get off the Cruise channel and have the Z show. And yes, I'll be back on at 6 p.m. hopefully prime time. We'll go ahead and do that now. And